Right, hopefully I'll pick up here where I think it might have cut off, guys. I'll try and be quick with it. Yeah, so anyway, as I was saying, yeah, we'll go back to where I think it dropped off, which was Open PS2 Manager. So yeah, so you call up the OPL Manager, and then you click on Local Hard Drive Options, Get Game List. It will find the games that are on your hard drive, and then you go to Batch Actions, click on Art Download, and it will give you a list of things you want to download. And as long as you're connected to the internet, it will download covers, it will download disc images and everything. You hit start, it will automatically download them. Once you're done with that, you can then go to Open OPL Folder. It will open a folder like this. Then what you need to do is get a USB thumb drive or SD card reader or something like that. Plug that into your computer, copy all of these folders here onto your thumb drive, and then what you can actually do is once you've got your PS2 drive back in your PS2, you can plug your thumb drive into the USB ports on the front. You can open the program called ULaunch ELF, and then you can basically copy each of these folders over to the relevant folder on your hard drive, and then when you load up the menu, it will give you your screenshots and everything for each of the games that you've downloaded onto your drive. So I'll go into that in a minute anyway. But so now we're done with all this. We've got everything that we need. So we will safely disconnect our hard drive now, or attempt to. So that's disconnected. Turn that off. Drop down the laptop. And then we will take our hard drive out of the caddy. It's already a bit warm. And then we'll take our network adapter, plug it into the hard drive, make sure it's fully seated on there. It's always a little bit flappy, so make sure it's fully seated. You can see that this hard drive fits a lot better into the back of the PS2 because it's not as thin as the one that I use normally. Slide that in, push that in, and then you tighten up the nuts on the back, and that keeps it in place. I'm not going to bother because I'm going to switch back to my normal hard drive after this, but it's pushed all the way in, so the interface connector's there. Turn our TV back on. Angle this up again. Hit the power. And now if everything's gone according to plan, it should have done, because I ran through this before I did the live stream. You should get the logo screen. And it's trying to do something. Yeah, sorry Tony. The missus put Netflix on. I think it did strangle our internet a little bit, I don't know. Now we've had a ropey connection here. It's been pretty solid, but every night when it hits peak time, I get throttled a lot. So, and there we go. We can see that it's completely done what we want it to do. This was the menu I was trying to call up earlier. When you first load it up, it will load into this menu, which looks very much like the standard BIOS menu, but you can see obviously it's got free HD boot at the top. It tells you the version you're running, and then from here you can go to browser, which will take you to the standard PS2 browser menu. System configuration, where you can change things like your language and things like that. There's a couple of programs on here. I'm not sure what they all do, to be completely honest. Some of them allow you to do things over the network. Some of them allow you to change your protocol. There you go. You've got hard disk drive checker, memory card annihilator. Using that, you can create new FreeBoot memory cards. You can do all kinds of funky things from there. You can manually launch the disk. You've got the HD boot configurator, which is how I changed mine to be able to set up Open PS2 loader from the start. And you can restart and shut down. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just pick OPL. If you've downloaded the 1.93 newbie package, it will just be on there as OPL loader version something. This is just a slightly updated one that I downloaded today. Hit the X button, and then it should load OPL loader. And like I say, this will look slightly different because this hasn't got any of my themes on it, and this is the latest version. So if I go to settings on here, we'll go to USB device start mode. If you have used the latest version that I have here, the 1.966, you're going to want to do this. You're going to want to go to USB device start mode and turn that to auto. Sorry, wrong one. HDD device start mode and change that to auto. And then you're going to want to change the default menu to HDD games. And that means that when you do start open PS2 loader, rather than going straight into the configuration menu like it did just, it will load into the games list, which is there. So there you go, and that's just, it's as simple as that. I mean, I know I've gone through it the longest way, but basically the process is this: you format your drive with WinHip, you write the disk image in the HDD raw copy tool, you copy your ISO images using WinHip to the hard drive. You then use OPL Manager to download your disk art and cover art and all that rubbish. Plug it all back into your PS2. Start it up and launch OPL Launcher, and it will load up to this, which is where your games are. So if I pick one of these games now, it should load straight from here. I can tell you now, I did use this version earlier, and this does actually load a little bit faster than the version I've got on my other drive. So I may be updating my other drive. The only problem is I will need to basically, you can overwrite the OPL launcher and things like that, and the hack that's on there, but it makes it fragments your drive a little bit, and I don't really want to do that. So what I'll do is when I've got some time, I will copy all my games back off that drive. I will install this new version onto it because it actually opens up a little bit more space. And then I will copy all my games back onto it. Well, then when you've got your games, hit the X button, and fingers crossed if I've done everything right. There we go. There we go. Ah, right, I haven't set up the virtual memory card for this yet. I'll go back to the menu in a second and show you that. But yeah, I want to start the game. You can see it's loading just fine. And we've got Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. And like I say, without any disc loading, you've got no stuttering on the video, no stuttering on the music, which you probably likely start seeing now on your games. Just try and get into the game. There you go, you can see the loading's a lot faster than it would be off disc. And into the game. You realise how bad the PS2s don't look great on LCD TVs, I'll be honest. But yeah, I've yet to play Vice City Stories all the way through, and Liberty City Stories. I had them many years ago, but now maybe is the opportunity to do that when I'm done messing with Resident Evil 2, which I'm still doing now. And this should play just perfect. Yeah, that's running just fine. I think the shortcut to reset is set up by default. Let's just try it. If I press, yep. If you press start, select and all four shoulder buttons, it will reset your console and go back to the boot process. So because I haven't set up PS2 loader to auto boot yet, it should go back to the menu system that you just saw. a second. Oh, okay. Let's restart it. Probably because I've not set it up right. Like I say, I've not had a chance to experiment with this one yet. I probably should have done, really. But yeah, anyway, if you do it with the 1.93 hack, it'll be a lot more smooth and just as I intend it to be. I've just tried to use the new hack because that was all I downloaded today. There we go. Now it should load back into the menu. There we go. So now I can't actually see ulaunch.elf. I don't know whether it's... We've got HD boot configurator. What we can do though is we can set this up. Right, now from here, if you want to load OpenPS2 Launcher by default and have that menu instead come up as an option, what you can do is you can go to configure E1 launch keys, and then you can see here, by default it will automatically load to OSD sys. That is the black menu you just saw before this came up. And then by holding things like L1, you can launch OpenPS2 Loader by default. By holding R1, it will launch the boot elf, whatever is set up as the boot elf. There's the other apps there, SMS and ESR, I'm not sure what they are. Well, you can set up to load those by default. If I change the auto instead to the OpenPS2 loader.elf, so we'll go to this and we want sysconf freemap boot apps. So we go to hard disk drive, sysconf apps, and then OPL 1468 all, I believe is the right one. There we go, OpenPS2 loader.elf. So now when we start this up, instead of loading to the black menu, if we go to return, save the configuration to hard disk drive. There we go, so it saves what I've just done there. Go to exit. And now what it should do is every time you start it, it should automatically go into OpenPS2 loader unless I hold any of the other buttons. If I hold any of the other buttons on startup, it should go to the black menu that you saw it load up to just. There you go, so it's automatically gone to PS2 loader. We'll just confirm that if I go to power off and start this up again, next time I start it, it should go straight to OpenPS2 loader. Take a few seconds longer, but there you go, the freemap boot screen. That's your kind of splash screen to let you know that everything's going all right. And like I say, this time it should go straight into OpenPS2 loader, not the, there you go, not the system menu. So I haven't finished saving all my changes there, but yeah, once you set it up properly, like I didn't do just, you go to settings, you can set it up to automatically launch into hard disk drive mode. Auto. PS1 games straight into hard disk drive games. Yeah, I don't think, yeah, I didn't save the changes last time, that's why. Hit change and save now. So next time it loads, when it loads, it'll load straight to that. And obviously, if you've then gone through you launch Elf, which should be on your menu, and you then plug in a USB thumb drive or something into the USB ports on the front of your PS2, you can launch Elf. That's your file browser. You can copy over the art folder to the right folder on the hard drive, and then when you load this, you'll see there obviously there's a space for the disk image and for the cover art to appear in the corner. You can also download, if you look on the internet, you can look for OPL themes. I had a couple of themes on mine. I don't think there's any themes installed by default, but if we go to display settings, you can see at the top there, one of the options is theme. If I click that, yeah, I can't change it. The only theme on there is the default theme. It's okay, it's perfectly presentable, you know. If you're just looking for an EverDrive-like experience, then obviously the standard menu is just fine. You don't get a choice on an EverDrive and it's perfectly fine. So, but if you want to make it a little bit nicer, because you can do, then download the themes, copy them over onto the hard drive using a little USB stick, and you're good to go, basically. But yeah, you can experiment with some of the options there. There you go, you can enable the cover art if it's on the hard drive. You can have it display things like the year it was made and things like that. Automatically refresh the menu every time. You want it to do that in case you've added extra games. I set up widescreen as on by default. You can see there it's changed the text to be more widescreen friendly, and it also means your games will launch in widescreen as well. You can change the audio settings, set up your network, get your network details setting up for your games, things like that. There you go, there's your option, Tony, for network update if you want to do things over the network. Parental lock, who's going to be using that? Nobody is, let's face it. And so yeah, you're good to go. Once you've done all this, you can take your hard drive back out, plug it back into your caddy, you know, download and put more games on, and just fill it up. What I'd recommend you do though, just before I do sign off, is if you're going to, you know, try and put as many games on as possible, do yourself a backup somewhere else if you can. And if you do value your games and you don't want any hold-ups or anything like that, because you want to allow space for things like memory cards and that, I would advise you leave a few gigabyte free at very least for things like game saves, artwork, themes, or in case you ever need to move things around on there. It's always good to have a little bit of a buffer space, is my kind of rule of thumb. I do it with my EverDrives, and I recommend you do it with this. So if you've got like a 500 gigabyte hard drive, leave yourself 5-10 gigabyte free at the end of it. Don't fill it to the very brim. It's a bad idea, and it's asking for trouble. So I'll quickly show you how to make the memory card before I sign off. That was the last thing. So if I go back to the back games list, press triangle, and then you go down there where it says VMC slot. You can basically create a memory card file by going to not set and pressing X, and it'll ask you to create one and name it. If you do it that way, you are able to actually use that memory card, copy those files using the memory card manager to a real PlayStation memory card. If you're not really bothered about that and you're going to keep everything on your hard drive, you can just hit use generic, and what it will do is it will create a virtual memory card just for this game. It doesn't really exist, but it'll just hold your save, and you can do it for slot 1 and slot 2. You probably won't need to, but on games where like you might have a lot of saves, like RPGs or, you know, Resident Evil or something like that, you can make 2 virtual memory cards. They're only 8 megabytes a time, so you might as well, you know what I mean? And then you just hit save change at the bottom, and then when you launch that game, there you go, it's created the virtual memory cards. And now when it gives me it should give me the option to save straight away. I haven't played Concept for a while. I love the Gran Turismo games on PS2, superb. Kind of lost their way in recent years. I think they've been outshone by other slightly better racing games in recent years, but yeah, on the PS2 they were definitely at their best. So okay. For some reason that's not loading. I'll probably download the bad image. I'll just grab that somewhere quickly off the internet. So, but anyway, that should all be fine. It's not my proper hard drive, so I'm not bothered about that. So anyway, that was how to modify your PS2 for hard drive loading. I hope you found it educational. I hope a few of you out there are able to do it with your own consoles based on that little kind of guerrilla filming that I've just done. I am back now doing streams, and I've got a lot more streams coming. I've got the PlayStation Classic out there, and a lot of people have asked me to show how to do. I mean, there's a lot of tutorials out there, just as there are for this, but I think when you've got a friend showing you, rather than some drawn-out American going through ridiculous amounts of processes and ads just to tell you, I think it's bullshit. When you've got a mate telling you how to do it, it's a lot simpler, I think. Plus, you can fast-forward and rewind this many times as you want. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be posting links and stuff like that. If you can't use Google by now, none of this stuff is hard to find. So, you know, I've told you what files to look for. Find those files, download them as I have, copy the procedure I've just done, and you'll easily do your own PS2. But like I say, you can probably, if you get yourself a network adapter for 10, 15 quid, you get a hard drive for 20, 25 quid. For 40 quid, you've basically modified your PS2 with a massive library. Do you know what I mean? And it's totally worth it. You're saving your laser, you're preserving your PS2, and you're just making it a lot more convenient for yourself. You know, sometimes people don't break out their old systems because of inconvenience. This is why I love EverDrives and things so much. And this is the EverDrive solution for a PS2. And it's great that nobody's had to kind of invent a device to do that, as you're going to have to with some of the other TD-based systems. So, yeah, my next video, like I say, I'll probably be covering how to modify your PlayStation Mini. I've got videos coming up on the progress of Revival Survival for the next, and some of the other developers' games for the next, because it's right around the corner. I've been speaking to a guy who does modifications for the Spectrums and for the next, so I'm going to be talking to you about that and going over some of the things that he's been showing me. And I've also got a few new rare consoles that I've picked up. One of them you've probably seen in the background very slightly when I was filming this, and I can't wait to do a video on this because it's actually going to be a little bit similar to this. And it's that bad boy right there. A few of you might have clocked it, but not all of you will have. That is the Sony PSX. That is basically one of those combined with a PVR and cable interfacing system. And I'll be going into that in detail in a future video. But although it's got a built-in hard drive, you can't actually do what you do with this because of some encryption that's built into there, sadly. But I'll go into that in the video. But yeah, one of my upcoming videos will be on this rather rare piece of kit, the Sony PSX. But I will be able to show you how I can actually still play games from Flash Solutions with that. So we're keeping these things alive as well. Another reason why it's so important that EverDrive solutions continue to be developed. But anyway, that is first YamYam Retro Gaming of 2019. All done, signing off, and I'll catch you real soon. See you later.